Hello everyone, it's me the Boss Hog, and we're back with another video breaking down all of my income, all of my costs for the month of January 2024. A few days later than I would have liked, but honestly January 2024 and early February has been pretty mental. Anyway, excuses aside, let's do it. Okay, so first of all, you might have noticed here I've got a fairly quirky background still. My daughter's birthday was a few weekends ago, but we've had a lot on and therefore still have a very quirky looking background at the moment. But they'll come down soon enough, but enjoy it while it's up. In terms of January 2024, honestly, a decent month income wise, pretty much what we were expecting. Slightly better actually, though, because my wife got her bonus and also as well the changes to the national insurance were also quite helpful for both my wife and I, so modest pay increases. And my wife also got her new pay rise as well, which was not insignificant. So on top of that, we also had just a little bit, but it all added up, some unexpected additional income as well. So likewise, that felt really great. Our regular costs were a bit lower than I would have expected this month. The main reason for that is because our management company of our flat really messed up on the admin of both their service charges and their heating and energy charges. So what was expected to be like one of the most expensive months for me, right, because it's winter and everything else. In the end, I didn't pay anything at all in January because it was so messed up. February to date, I've paid about 1.2k. Most of that, 1,000 of that is the service charges, but £200 is sort of just to, I guess, pay the only invoice that kind of made sense. And obviously we've raised a query with them. The main thing that they did is basically put on a bunch of old invoices, so they're like duplicating charges from a year and a half ago for no idea why or what's gone on. But anyway, we will. I expect that to land sooner or later. It's possible that I will be slightly out. I sort of have to guess the heating and energy a little bit. But that's why none of that cost, so £2,000 basically didn't land in January as expected. Other costs were higher, but two main call outs here. My wife paid her tax bill. All right, fine. And then also we paid our holiday for April fully in advance, and we got a little bit of a reduction for doing so, so it made sense. And also, I mean, honestly, my wife got slightly carried away for my daughter's birthday, so we spent the better part of £1,000 on various gifts and hosting and everything else. That was pretty intense. That all added up for sure. And then investments were pretty high, and that's partly because I chose to max out my ISA for the year now that my brokerage is doing 5% tax free, basically as good as I can get anywhere else for things that's not already sort of maxed out. That was a combination of sort of moving money from accounts, but also I've now completed my credit card arbitrage, what's called stoozing. So that's why, again, we've actually got a minus month this month, but that was totally expected. Again, we put another sort of £5,000 onto our credit card, as well as burnt through some of my wife's bonus and that kind of stuff that we had in previous months. So a lot of the investments in January went into cash savings, and then we took out some of that cash savings to again do the movements there. So it looks pretty horrific, obviously the minus 9k, but the delta is explainable. In terms of how this is looking across rolling 3 months, to be honest with you, again, we haven't really achieved any sort of stabilization in this yet. I've decided that I'm going to do a 6-month review at the end of April. Hopefully by then we'll have some sort of stability. But honestly, between now and then, I expect to get my bonus as well, which will have a pretty material income impact. And again, our costs are kind of still all over the place. I would say our regular costs are quite consistent. Again, £5,000 a month seems to be the normal amount. However, what I was originally expecting is that the first month of each quarter, when my flat fees are due, right, service charges and energy, that it would throw it off a little bit. But again, because they didn't land in Jan, actually we do have a fairly stable 3 months worth of regular costs, which in fairness, you should expect stability in your regular costs, right? But then the costs other, which were sort of more or less standard, very different this month because of effectively £8,000 worth of charges that we wouldn't have in many months. So again, maybe in fairness with you, the cost other will average sort of 3.5, but this month very different as a result. Similarly as well, investments have been quite sporadic, and again, that's partly because my wife's bonus enabled us to put a little bit of money extra away into the December figure. So again, maybe 7k is the sort of monthly investment amount, although again I think that's too high, and that's been flattered over the last few months whilst I've been using my credit cards for arbitrage. Like, I don't expect to be able to keep up with that sort of investment level, but we will see how we do. And that's sort of the trending and how it's looking. So I guess that's the takeaway for now. If anyone wants to stop watching, then now's the perfect time. However, if you're interested in the makeup of these figures, then stick with me and we'll walk through that, as well as talking about some of the major callouts. All right, so in terms of the call outs, so wife's increase in salary and bonus as expected. However, it is worth calling out specifically the bonus line, especially if you didn't watch this video last month. So basically, my wife's bonus is um, comprised of three different elements, a sort of 60% and then a 20% and a 20%. And one of those 20% got messed up on her employer's basis. They apologized and said, don't worry, it's going to be paid in January. Sure enough, it did get paid in January. And so that's why there's sort of a second smaller month, although not insignificant, right? My wife's salary was also increased by a material amount. The slightly annoying thing is right now I don't know what the true amount will be, just because of sort of tax changes, which we'll get to in just a second. The bonus was also having sort of an impact on the overall tax rate for my wife. So it's kind of all over the place at the moment, and we're probably going to have to wait till next month to really see. For anyone who's not in the UK, national insurance is sort of an additional income tax, really. I guess you kind of think of it like state and federal, but it works very differently. But we basically have sort of a personal income tax and then a personal national insurance as well on top of that. But there were some changes basically in last budget that became effective from January. Me and my wife are big beneficiaries from this. We basically gain the maximum because we are both significant taxpayers. And actually, both of us together, it's about a 1.5k benefit after tax. So sort of we get to keep, a little bit more of our paychecks, about £63 each per month. So again, that's significant, and that was the first time. But basically, the reason for my salary change there month on month is because of that. So you can kind of see it more clearly in my number there, £63 exactly between those two numbers. I had two casino visits. One was a £20 win. I'm not sure if we count that as a win. A £20 win, and the other one was quite a heavy loss. The one I had a loss with was with a couple of people from the investment Discord who did much better than I did. So I'm happy for them. Cashed out 480, and we'll get to the cost later in the episode. I've not run very well the last sort of couple of sessions. However, as I've spoken about before, I was running incredibly well in September to November. So this is kind of payback, what's called expected value. Which is the way you can sort of calculate how well you should be performing. You can think of it like a reversion to the mean from a stock perspective. But overall, across my last 6 visits, I'm still up well into 4 figures, and I'm quite zen about it, honestly, because again, I knew it was coming. So I kept 480, but you'll see that we lost on our casino visits overall. I also did an industry consult this month. These are something that come around once or twice a year. My last one was about 4 months ago, though, so that's nice. The only slightly awkward thing is that I basically signed up to like 3 professional advice services, and I thought I had my consult rate at $200 on all of them. And this is sort of the one that I use least. But apparently I hadn't updated it, or it was sort of stuck on what it had been beforehand, so it was only $140, which was only disappointing because it was actually quite a hard consult, and it was from an investment banking company who wanted my thoughts on European mobile telecom market, which I was happy to share. But not quite as much as I was expecting. Anyway, it's relatively easy work. I enjoy it actually as well, and obviously £107 is nice. Also, the nice thing about this company is they pay you almost immediately, so I got paid like 2 days after doing it, which is excellent. So it just about cleared into January, and that's another £100 there for very little work, honestly. The other nice thing here to call out is the cash savings. So the banking income I sort of restructured is partly from my credit card. I've been maxing out, getting some credits from that, etc. The cash savings here is a little bit different because that's a different type of banking restructuring. But basically, I've set up a couple of high yielding savings accounts as I sort of gear towards getting a emergency fund in place this year. And this was the first month that I received any benefit from it. The only slight shame is that I have 2 accounts. One pays monthly, and I thought honestly both of them paid monthly, but the other one only pays out at like the end of the year. So that's slightly annoying because it should be like, at the end of the year I'll get something like £70, but I thought I was going to get £6 a month, but it is what it is. So the £22 there is slightly less than I was expecting, but it's nice to start rewarding myself with this. This also basically goes straight into shares as well. So I have a specific position within one of my ISAs that any sort of banking interest that I receive is being funneled into. So in a few years' time, hopefully that'll be awesome to see. But that's all of our income to talk about this month. So let's have a scroll down our regular costs. All right, so a few call outs that I want to touch on. School fees this month were quite high. That's really for because of the fact that we paid for like a half term break for my daughter. We tried to do half term in the winter term for the first time when she was at home. My daughter's like 4 years old now, is highly energetic and time demanding, as I think most 4 year olds are. So we decided this time to spend like 250 quid for 5 days. I think that's okay, you know, it works out about £8 an hour. So she could go to this club that one of the local schools runs. Honestly, she seemed to love it. We've literally just completed that week. Money well spent, honestly, and that was really great. We also paid for her ballet for the term, so she does like an hour a week in ballet. Again, it's only sort of £10, but you times that by 12, and that's again another contributor there, as well as one or two smaller things as well. I've already mentioned about my service charges, etc. Again, there's nothing in January, just to be clear. I have already paid, however, in February 1.2k, and you'll see that next month as an additional cost on top of that, basically. We also did our yearly subscription to Amazon. On the whole, I choose not to do annual subscriptions because honestly, I'd rather keep the cash in the bank for longer. But Amazon give us a reasonable discount as a percentage, so I decide sort of anything north of 10-15% is just as good as I could get in a stock market on the average. So I'm happy to pay for this and basically realise the win straight away. Interestingly, actually, my daughter's school fees, which is our second highest cost here, right? It's not trivial, especially once you add in the after school club and the activities as well. They're currently running the numbers and are going to give parents an opportunity of paying in advance and receiving a discount. So we're sort of keeping an eye on that. And again, if we can get sort of a 10 to 15% kind of saving by paying in advance, we'll definitely consider it, my wife and I. So that tends to be our our threshold for deciding. We also spend quite a lot on the cleaner this month. We do have a kind of long-term cleaner. She usually comes in about once a month. It's kind of a sop to my wife, really. It's something that she gets more value out of than I do. We don't really live in an untidy flat most of the time, but you know, she does those things, in fairness, like cleans the fridge, does the oven, those sort of things that, in fairness, don't get done otherwise or rarely get done. As well as the things that my wife notices, like, you know, bathrooms and the floor and stuff like that. So it is what it is. But we had her in like 3 times because we were doing so much hosting related to our daughter's birthday. So again, another cost related to that. It definitely all adds up. But overall, honestly, I'm quite happy with these. And to be fair, like, I'm quite happy with the fact that we're starting to see standardized pricing. You know, there's a little bit of change in the after school clubs, which is the extra part that, you know, a few hours each day after school, and also the school fees went up just because it's a longer term. But honestly, I'm quite happy that we have this level of consistency month on month, and yeah, we just sort of manage a little bit of some of the oddities as they come along. But quite a pleasing start across the last 4 months from the regular cost perspective. All right, so next up, so wifey paid off tax bill. If I'm honest with you, I probably should have changed the budget for this so that I kind of knew it was coming, but I'd already set it in and originally expected to pay it in December. So actually, when we get to my February guidance, I've made some updates like the 1.2k to the management company. I feel like I should have a more flexible approach to budget because really this was known, even though in the numbers it looks like we were sort of 8k out. Actually, it's kind of more 4k out because it was just the holiday. Anyway, all that said, we expected this to be 4.2k, so bang on in line with expectations. Yep, the holiday then. So I technically have an all-inclusive price, which includes the plane tickets. However, I compared it to what I would have paid if I was paying the two fees separately, and think this is a reasonably accurate split. So fine. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I might have mentioned it before, I might not have on this channel, but me and my wife absolutely love Portugal. I've been there several times during my life to various places. Our favourite place is probably Cascais, which is southwest, or Madeira. Actually, I really like Madeira as well as the wine. But yeah, it's a beautiful island. This time we're going to the Algarve. We have a really nice hotel booked, so it should be pretty special. And again, we're hoping that my daughter's now old enough to really get value from the kids club, which also looks pretty epic. So looking forward to that. And again, fully paid. It is only half board, so we will have like dinners and alcohol. So I expect that we will add 4 figures to this cost because me and my wife like to eat and drink. But still very happy to have a holiday to look forward to. Next up, we got the presents and gifts. I mean, I've already touched on it. It just all adds up basically, and I mean, a lot of this stuff was already paid for in January, especially some of the more gifty things. But again, we were doing some hosting. Like we actually had our birthday party. I think it was on the 3rd of February. So that all kind of dripped into January as well as from December costs. Um, Yeah, and even things like she's getting like she started to go to gymnastics clubs now as well as ballet. So we're just buying her sort of £20 ballet shoes or like £30 like leotards for gymnastics. It all just adds up crazy quickly. I had a trip to IKEA today to get some furniture as well, so that will be in February's figures. So it turns out that raising a child in London is incredibly expensive, which probably won't shock you too much, but yeah, definitely adds costs to all of this. Casino trips here. So again, we spent well a total here of 1225.97. That's a bit of a strange number because originally when I was doing my casino visits in like October, September, um, I was separating out the food costs into sort of nights out and then the casino costs into casino. But actually, I figure I'm going to put all of my casino costs into a single line because ultimately, if I wasn't at the casino, I wouldn't be spending money on food and drinks. So it's a slightly strange number here because of that. Like, obviously, I'm not betting 97p. And things like that, but that's kind of the reason why. So actually, like my gambling here was more like 1150 or something like that. But yeah, the amount here should be that's why it's a funny one in essence. So overall here, the net loss was like 800, something like that. Um, oh, we're okay. And then last but not least, the eating out. Again, this figure continues to run way higher than I was originally expecting. Um, yeah, I think it's just where is the eating out figure? Oh, I didn't actually highlight it. I should have highlighted it, but it's just there in the middle there, 669. And we just like because my wife and I've been so busy, we just have been eating out more than we were originally expecting. The one good thing I would say is that our shopping this month was like 230 against a budget of 575. So overall, they broadly equaled out in terms of our overall spend. But it is something that we're mindful of, I suppose. Again, part of the budget process is really just learning and sort of at least understanding where our costs are much higher than we would have expected. Like honestly, I think the December figure would have been much higher, except for much of it's contained in the family holidays figure when we were in Poland with my in-laws for like 2 to 3 weeks, right? We helped them with shopping, so I put it under the family holidays in that instance. Again, similar to casino, because if we weren't in Poland for a family holiday, we wouldn't have been spending money on the shopping. But still, that's part of the reason why it reduced our eating out figure. And actually, I guess our eating out figure is going to be high three figures each month, which is surprising. I wouldn't have expected that. But it does add up, I guess, across the month. So other costs this month a little bit unusual. Quite a lot of the things going on, honestly. But again, most of it's explainable in one way or another. And the two big contributors here, the holiday and the tax, are 8 grand of this combined total. So yeah, again, broadly fine with this, except for like the casino is the casino. It's expected that you can't always win at the casino, right? In fact, in the long term, you may well lose depending on what game you're playing. And the big surprise to me here remains the eating out, and to a lesser degree, the sort of presents and gifts, which again, you always sort of know that the stuff is there, but I'm surprised at how consistently high that figure has been. Like, wouldn't necessarily have expected it to be that high, but that does seem to be the sort of average across the last sort of 4 months that we've been tracking. Okay, and then investments. So some really cool things here. So yeah, I've spoken about this on my wealth building end of month January, but really happy to have added, over 8 grand to my wife's ISA. My wife deserves a lot of credit for that contribution because of her bonus. Really helped us enable that. And to be fair, like this wasn't the original plan. We were just going to do sort of two and a bit thousand a month and max it out by the end of the year. But again, the 5% paid on cash balances has made it really attractive to me, and it's like I say, better than if it was sitting in the bank. I could have put this into premium bonds. That was the other option, but there's slightly more certainty with the 5% compared to premium bonds. And again, psychologically, it feels fantastic to have hit what's our most important financial target several months earlier. So now in February and March paydays, we can top up the premium bonds, which are going to be acting as a major component of our emergency fund. Yeah, just as again for anyone who's newish, I maxed out my ISA in sort of September last year. Um, just had money available, and I thought like that was a good thing to do at the time as well. I kind of wanted to play it off as sort of like completing my ISA as soon as possible, and then like dollar cost averaging, pound cost averaging into the other ISA just to sort of get the blended best of both worlds. But again, that sort of changed with the payment of the cash balance in January. Just 1,000 into premium bonds this month. In fairness, our minimum target's 500, but we had been doing sort of a little bit more over the last couple of months. And to be honest, again, for February and March, I expect to do a significant amount, sort of several thousand. I'm not quite sure of the exact amount, but it will be low to mid four figures, that kind of region. And I mean, you'll see this in the Feb wealth video, but I actually won premium bonds, only £50, but again, it still feels pretty great to have my first ever premium bond win. Actually, on the premium bonds that I spent in December, so it was the first month they actually qualified. These ones I actually won £50 on, so that felt pretty good from that perspective as well. So yeah, we're fine here. Cash savings looks a bit weird, but again, we were moving money out of our cash savings, right? So wifey got paid, then we had some cash savings, and then we moved some money out of our cash savings. And you can kind of see it, I guess, with the 8.7 into the 8.35 plus the other costs that we've discussed, netted off against some credit card spend. So again, lots of things happening really, and I'm hoping that over the next few months, outside of maybe my bonus, we'll start to see a little bit more stability. But that's always the issue, right? I think like when you look at cash flow, it should really be zoomed out across at least 3 months, but honestly, I think it should really be 6 and then 12, and then you'll see the whole figure. And I will do a 6 and 12 month formal review. But obviously the table that we looked at the beginning of this video is to kind of give us that 3 month view, accepting some variance and ups and downs with things during the year. So that's everything for Jan 2024. Now we're going to have a go at forecasting in Feb and see where we get to. All right, so in terms of expectations for 2024, first of all, February income should be normal. I haven't got any expectations. I was hoping to actually have a further industry consult, like the consult. It was asked, would you be interested in this consult? And it was on telecom billing systems. And again, for anyone who doesn't know, this is literally my day job. I would consider myself an expert in telecom billing systems. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to talk about that. Who wouldn't? And it was for $200. And then they were like, oh, yeah, we decided to close the consult. So I was like, oh. Still wouldn't have been particularly meaningful and material in the scheme of things, but it would have been nice to look forward to that. Anyway, that aside, the additional income here is sort of just a few things, and again, my wife's salary is a fair few hundred higher, but broadly speaking, in my head, when I think about our income at the moment, is 10k a month, with a little bit extra for a few additional incomes, but our salary is about 10k a month combined, so anything above that is good. Our regular costs here, so as I touched on earlier in the video, I have made an adjustment. So normally this would have been sort of more like 5k, but I've made a little bit of an adjustment from various costs, both regular and other. But this, I think, is a more reasonable budget expectation for Feb, so we'll judge against that essentially. Other costs are fairly uneventful, but split between eating out and gifts. I've been maybe a little bit too pessimistic here, but February seems like a relatively low month for us. My wife and I actually wanted to do something. It's our anniversary on the 24th, so we wanted to do something, but time just doesn't seem to be allowing us an opportunity to. So maybe more like in March we'll have a nice meal out and spend probably a couple of hundred. But for now, February seems a relatively low spend month. Again, I maybe we'll overshoot this. That's certainly what previous surprises have told me. So let's see. And then last but not least, yeah, the premium bonds. I guess here in my numbers, I've got 4,000 and then a couple of hundred for sort of my junior ISA and things like that as well. So that's nothing else planned, right? Can't max the ISAs. Most of the extra money that I have is going to be going into premium bonds, maybe a little bit into the cash accounts as well. But honestly, I've got like $6,000 in cash in various accounts. So I'm kind of broadly happy with that figure in terms of instant access. I can't think of a world where I'd need to get access to more than $6,000 worth of cash. I don't drive a car, right? I live in London. And everything else is insured or as part of my managed service fees for the flats. So I think that's plenty for any surprises I can envision. So most of it's going to go to premium bonds. That is the plan. We'll try and at least materially stick to this. And again, hopefully we'll have a bit more stability, at least for 1 month until my March pay, when it might have a bonus. Let's cross our fingers. Anyway, that's everything for now. Thank you very much for sticking with me if you made it this far. Hopefully it's interesting, enlightening, educational, whatever value you get out of it. I hope you do. I do, which I suppose is the most important, but I do genuinely appreciate anyone who made it this far. Thank you for your time and good luck with your costs and income management. Bye for now, guys.